People ask me all the time, why haven't you ever had Hillary or Bill Clinton on? Why didn't you have Kamala on during the last campaign? You think we don't ask? We ask these people every week. They say no. It took 8 years and a petition to get Obama on. And these are people, all people I voted for. Think about that. They're afraid to come on the show of a guy who voted for them. They're definitely afraid of their kids, who from time immemorial have always come up with bad ideas. Their kids, thinking up stupid what they do. But parents used to tell them, that's ridiculous. The world doesn't work that way. Not today's parents. They say, you're right, honey. Gender is just a social construct. Please, sometimes your mother and I forget which one of us has the dick.
Bill Maher is once again on fire, dropping truth bombs that the Democratic National Committee never saw coming. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if he finally walks away from the left entirely before the year is even over. In his latest episode, Maher delivered a takedown that was equal parts comedy and sheer brutality. He painted the DNC as spineless cowards with absolutely no vision. A clique of smug elitists, so detached from reality that their nonsense even makes the clueless wince. If raw, unfiltered political commentary is your thing, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned.
Democrats need to get their together because we need two parties in this country, and we desperately need the one that still concedes elections, doesn't sell the office, and doesn't want to completely switch out democratic rule of law for a rubber-stamped autocracy. But that party is so right now, and nothing to me symbolized that more than this video. Why do I say that? Well, let me put it this way. I don't know for a fact that this couple are Democrats. I just know it's true.
Bill Maher isn't pulling any punches, calling out the Democratic National Committee for being a complete disaster. He says the party is stumbling in circles with no clear direction, and honestly, he's not wrong. The big question is, who's really in charge here? Some argue it's AOC, proudly waving the progressive banner. Others point to Bernie Sanders, still clinging to his long-time revolution. A few daring voices claim it's Kamala Harris, though her sinking approval ratings tell a different story. And then, of course, there are the dreamers putting their hopes on Gavin Newsom, the polished California governor more obsessed with his hair gel than solving real chaos. But here's the real kicker. Who is actually uniting this fractured group under a single vision? Maher's answer cuts sharp. No one. That's why the Democrats look like a runaway car, for drivers grabbing the wheel, each pulling in a different direction. And now, Maher is ready to break down why this leadership vacuum is eating his party alive.
First off, the man is at a Coldplay concert. And while Republicans could like Coldplay, they don't, but they could. It's unlikely that this guy is a Christian conservative because he was having an affair with a woman. No, I knew they were Democrats for the same reason I knew this was a Democrat. You can't hide from the kiss cam, and you can't hide in the Oval Office.
Maher doesn't bother softening the blow. He lays it out plain. The reason the Democratic Party looks so hopelessly lost is fear, pure and simple. Picture that cringe-worthy moment when the kiss cam lands on an awkward couple at a Coldplay concert. As soon as the camera zooms in, panic flashes across their faces. They squirm, they duck, desperate to hide from the spotlight. That's exactly how the Democrats look right now. Exposed, nervous, and terrified of confronting the mess they've created. Maher hammers the point home by recalling Gretchen Whitmer, who once literally ducked behind a pile of files in the Oval Office just to avoid being seen. For him, it's the perfect image of today's Democratic leadership, preferring the shadows instead of stepping forward with courage. What we get isn't boldness but cowardice, not vision but constant retreat. And Maher makes it crystal clear, the DNC will never win hearts if their only instinct is to run for cover.
Am I saying that only Democrats run and hide? But Democrats seem to be afraid of everything. They were petrified of COVID, masking 2-year-olds who never would have died from it and keeping schools closed for far too long.
The Democrats in charge didn't just make mistakes during COVID. They shut down America's schools for nearly an entire year, leaving millions of kids cut off, isolated, and falling behind in their education. And the worst part? For what reason? Study after study revealed that children were among the least vulnerable, yet that truth didn't matter. Instead, Democrats doubled down on fear tactics, pushing unnecessary vaccine mandates and demanding compliance from families who resisted. They claimed it was all about safety, but Maher points out the real motive: control. They were terrified of the virus and even more terrified of losing their political grip. Meanwhile, ordinary Americans were told to mask up, stay home, and sacrifice, while the elites played by their own rules. Who can forget Gavin Newsom, California's polished governor, caught dining with friends at an upscale restaurant while the rest of his state suffered in lockdown? That's the DNC exposed, hypocrites preaching sacrifice, yet breaking every rule themselves.
They're definitely afraid of their kids, who from time immemorial have always come up with bad ideas. Their kids, thinking up stupid what they do. But parents used to tell them, that's ridiculous. The world doesn't work that way. Not today's parents. They say, you're right, honey. Gender is just a social construct. Please, sometimes your mother and I forget which one of us has the dick.
It's funny, almost laugh out loud at times, but it's also painfully true. Try having a serious debate with a Democrat on the issue of gender and you'll feel like you're arguing with a child who just discovered big words. Their talking points sound as if they've been copied straight out of a kindergarten lesson, oversimplified, emotional, and completely disconnected from science or basic logic. They throw around catchy buzzwords and insist that feelings somehow outweigh biology. But the moment you confront them with facts, the response is predictable. They either shut down, spiral into a meltdown, or desperately change the subject. The whole exchange is built on passion without substance, delivered with the conviction of someone who thinks they're defending a miracle cure. That's what makes it so absurd, childish reasoning wrapped in adult certainty. And yet, they repeat it all with unwavering faith, convinced volume equals truth. The end result: a party clinging to nonsense while ridiculing common sense, leaving the rest of us shaking our heads in disbelief.
I don't know if we're still banning TikTok. That was before we changed the rule in America to Trump decides what's a law. But I know it wouldn't even be an issue if parents would sack up and tell their kids to get off the phone. Democrats are still afraid of the mean girls who police their far-out fringe.
It's true. If there's one thing Democrats fear almost as much as losing an election, it's the crushing weight of cancel culture. They live in constant dread, knowing that a single misplaced word, an unpopular opinion, or even an ill-timed joke could unleash the Twitter mob, pitchforks raised high. That fear has them creeping around every issue like they're walking barefoot across shattered glass. Instead of standing firm on principle, they fold instantly, bending to the loudest and most radical voices on the fringe left, even when, deep down, they don't actually agree. For them, it's always political survival over honesty, calculation over conviction. You can see it in the way they flip their positions overnight the moment an activist hashtag starts trending. The mob demands obedience, and Democrats would rather bow than risk cancellation. And that's why their party appears so utterly spineless. Fear has become their guiding star, and it's steering them straight off a cliff.
Massachusetts Congressman Seth Moulton had a perfect score on LGBTQ issues from the Human Rights Campaign. But when he said, I have 2 little girls, I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a male or formerly male athlete, his own campaign manager quit. And the chair of the Salem Democratic City Committee, Liz Bratt, accused Moulton of being, quote, what is known as a cooperator in Nazi times. Yeah, I think the word you're looking for, moron, is collaborator, and I'm guessing everything you know about Nazi times comes from TikTok.
Senator Moulton did something almost unheard of in today's political climate. He stood his ground and spoke out against the woke mob's latest crusade, forcing biological men into women's sports. With courage that so many of his peers lack, he said out loud what millions of Americans already recognize as plain common sense, that allowing men to compete against women shatters fairness, endangers safety, and destroys the very heart of competition. But instead of sparking an honest debate, the response was swift and merciless. The woke mob swarmed like a pack of vultures, labeling him a bigot, drowning out his voice, and ultimately canceling him for daring to resist their ideology. That's the reality we live in today. Speak the truth, and you're punished. Moulton's stand wasn't born of hate, it was rooted in principle. Yet in today's climate, principle gets pushed aside for virtue signaling. His cancellation is proof of a harsh truth. The left doesn't want dialogue, they want obedience. And anyone who refuses is swiftly destroyed.
Imagine that, a congressman merely stands up for the liberal principle, the one we do still call Title IX, that women get an equal shot in sports, and now it gets you labeled a Nazi. Alyssa Slotkin calls her party weak and woke. She's right. People vote on instinct. They can smell fear a swing state away, and they'd rather have strong and wrong.
Strong leaders build strong nations. It's a timeless truth, and it's exactly what America is desperate for right now. What the people don't need is yet another weak, spineless figurehead hiding behind opinion polls, pandering to the loudest voice in the room, or bowing to fringe activists just to stay politically correct. That kind of cowardice has dragged this nation into chaos, leaving ordinary Americans divided, frustrated, and longing for someone with a real backbone. A true leader doesn't chase applause or bend with the wind. A true leader sets a vision, stands tall when it matters most, and puts the people above their own political survival. At this moment, America doesn't need more empty speeches or carefully staged photo ops. It needs strength. It needs clarity. It needs a leader who won't flinch when the mob screams or the media attacks. Without that kind of courage, the nation drifts deeper into weakness, and Americans can feel it in their bones.
Having sex with Stormy Daniels was wrong, but Trump didn't hide from the camera. Quite the opposite. It looks like he said to the photographer, "Widen that out so you can get these tits." He's got his mugshot hanging outside the Oval Office. He's literally got a guy working for him named Big Balls. It's like if Gavin Newsom had a henchman named Perfect Hair.
Unlike the Democrats, Donald Trump has never been afraid to own his mistakes, and that's exactly why more than half the country respects him. Ordinary Americans see straight through the fake polish of career politicians who dodge responsibility, twist narratives, and shift the blame the moment something goes wrong. Trump, by contrast, has built his entire image on being unapologetically real. When something doesn't go as planned, he doesn't hide it. He admits it, then doubles down with the grit and determination to fix it. That kind of raw honesty resonates with people who are sick of being lied to by weak leaders too scared of offending the latest activist mob. Voters don't crave perfection. They want someone bold enough to take criticism head-on, strong enough to weather the storm, and authentic enough to speak from the gut instead of a teleprompter. Trump embodies all of that. Love him or hate him, one thing is undeniable: he's not pretending. And that's why so many rally behind him.
People ask me all the time, why haven't you ever had Hillary or Bill Clinton on? Why didn't you have Kamala on during the last campaign? You think we don't ask? We ask these people every week. They say no. It took 8 years and a petition to get Obama on. And these are people, all people I voted for. Think about that. They're afraid to come on the show of a guy who voted for them. The Republicans, they show up. And when they do, they take their beating like a man.
This closing moment is nothing short of an indictment of Democratic presidents and the candidates they've carefully handpicked over the years. 4 decades, not one of them has ever honored Bill Maher with so much as an invitation to the White House. They've kept him at arm's length, refusing to even appear on his show, despite the fact that Maher has been one of the loudest and most consistent voices on the left for years. And yet, here comes Donald Trump, the very man Maher has mocked, criticized, and roasted countless times, who becomes the first to extend that invitation. The irony is staggering. Democrats ignore him, but Trump sees the influence, the audience, and the weight Maher carries. That action alone speaks volumes. So when people whisper that Maher is drifting toward the right, it suddenly doesn't seem so far-fetched. Because in politics, actions matter far more than words. And the undeniable truth is that Trump showed Maher more respect than the Democratic establishment ever has. And with that, we wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content just like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.